Welcome back, everyone. My name's Anthony. This is my shop. This is my channel. We'll find out what year it is. We have a 180,000 mile Nissan Pathfinder. Exterra. It's the same thing. And the customer brought it in for a check engine light. Said it was. They were told it needed cats. The codes were cleared. I didn't suspect it, but it is possible at this mileage with original cats. 2008. The code was Lean Bank 1.
That's not a cat code.
Right, Lean Bank 1 was the code we were chasing. We actually changed the Bank 1 oxygen sensor, and we found a wire that was outside of the connector, which is completely fine. And we put it back the same way, and we still had a Lean 1. They also complained of an intermittent stall that actually didn't happen for 3 days that we had the car. Then finally we were just running it, and it just shut off, and we chased it back to no fuel delivery. Jude pulled the fuel pump down, and there was a corroded pin. Can you grab the connector? That's up front. So we believe that was their intermittent stall, but the Lean Bank 1, I was chasing my tail, smoke tested, cleaned the mass airflow sensor, intake boots, upper plenum gasket, like going through all the obvious stuff. Now, we didn't replace the mass, we cleaned it. And it was only Bank 2, and I could see it on a live graph. So I'm going to. So this is us graphing both O2 sensors. I'm going to show you the connector. So that pin right there is full of corrosion and a rusted out connector. So that was the fuel pump connector to fuel pump. I'll give that back to Rachel. And then what I noticed after we changed the O2 sensor, in freeze frame, it had all zeros for the oxygen sensor on the Bank 1 sensor one. And then after he changed the O2 sensor, or air fuel sensor, we had activity, but when it was graphing against the Bank 2 was just very consistent. The waveform was really good. And then Bank 1 was 412 down to like 3 volts, 412, 3 volts, and I'm like, what is going on here? So after we changed the intake plenum gasket, it stayed under 4 volts on the air fuel for Bank 1 and voltage. And right now you see it's it's very consistent. And you can watch the graph, it's not even moving. So in the other graph where it was bad, it was at 3 volts, and then it would run, and then it would hit 4 blocks, go to just under 4 volts, and then come back down, and then stay at 1 volt above 212. And I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? I got resistance in the connector, this, that, and the other thing. I was like, hey guys, is there any exhaust leaks? And like, nothing that we could hear. I'm like, great, is this one of these cars? It doesn't matter, you would hear an exhaust leak. So then I wound up using soapy water on the exhaust system, and I'm checking the driver's side, the passenger side exhaust, and there's an exhaust leak that's so small past the rear oxygen sensor. And I actually saw that on the downstream O2 signal, that the downstream O2 signal was just flat. And I'm like, all right, so that's, something's going on there. And then when I sprayed it with soap, I seen it come alive. I'm like, all right, let me just keep going further up the line. And then what happened was, there was a bunch of pinholes around the O2 sensor bung that was making this O2 sensor operate at 3 volts. And then the ECM would try and correct every time that, I guess, an exhaust pulse clogged it, and it wasn't consistent. So after us putting compressed air in the exhaust system using soapy water with a plug, we actually got the pinholes around that O2 sensor welded up. But I didn't realize this was one of those vehicles with a wideband that was so sensitive. And this just goes. Now I know when people say, oh, I put headers on, I put aftermarket cats, and I already know that, guess what? There's leaks somewhere that they can't hear that are so small, and it's a nightmare. We see that all the time with aftermarket parts. They put headers on, they put aftermarket cats on, and then they get lean codes or air fuel ratio codes and all this other stuff. So, as I said, this was switching on the Bank 1 sensor one at 3 volts, and then it would go up to 4 after we changed the intake gasket, and would stay under 4 and then come back down. And it would only run 3 cells on average, and then it would say, hey, you're getting lean. Then the PCM would correct and then it would it wouldn't go no lower than like 270 something or 280, and then it would run along, and then boom, it would spike back up again. So now I'm graphing it right now, and we're solid. So if you have an older generation Nissan and you're chasing a lean bank one, you got to check all the obvious stuff. But then you can't exclude pinholes in the exhaust.
Yeah.
Audible, can't hear it, only showed up with soapy water. I actually smoked the intake, but obviously it wasn't enough to get down in the exhaust. And these were so little that they probably would have never shown.
Exhaust valve also could have been closed. You don't know.
But compressed air in the tailpipe and soapy water, we got it nailed down. All right. And then I'm going to show you the voltages are consistent. If you just let this idle, within 15 minutes it would log a code lean bank one. It's crazy. Thanks for watching.